My name is Bernard H. Sloan, and I'm a World War veteran of about 4.5 years. This here is when I graduated from Illinois.
Okay. And that, in the fall of 1940, you were drafted, but then it wasn't, you got deferred to finish
Yeah.
college.
Because I was a senior in college.
Okay.
They gave seniors a year's deferment to graduate.
Okay. So in May of 41, then this picture's taken.
Yeah,
You with
May
your
of
parents.
41, and I was drafted, and so I graduated as I remember, like the 6th of June, and a week later, I was in Fort Sheridan.
After Fort Sheridan, he went to Fort Sill in Oklahoma. Since my dad grew up on a farm and had worked with horses all his life, the quartermaster at Fort Sill pulled him aside one day.
Then a year later, he throws a thing on my desk and he says, here might be something. He says, you're a farm boy. You got a degree in agriculture. And they're looking for guys to be horse buyers. They were looking for people to go to the officers' candidate school for this kind of work.
Mm-hmm.
Well, so I had to go through what they call the quartermasters. So I got assigned to the quartermasters, which was supplies and all that kind of stuff. So, and that's when I got shipped out to Camp Lee in Virginia. And they referred to the guys that go to these schools, they call them 90-day wonders. We were sergeants and you'd come out lieutenants. And they were affectionately known as 90-day wonders.
By the time my dad finished training, the cavalry stopped using horses and became a mechanized division instead. In the summer of 1943, after more training at Fort Bliss, my dad shipped out to Australia.
This was taken near Brisbane, Australia, north of Brisbane, which is semi-tropical.
Okay.
And this would be a perfect indication of our camp. We landed, and it had to be along in, there was winter going on, because I remember we had all summer clothes. We had cotton clothes and everything, no woolens, anything like that. And it was cold. It get cold at night, even up there, because it was along the ocean. And and we had these tents, and we set and this was a perfect example of the camp. They just took us and dumped us in this big eucalyptus grove. So here we are, and we got this camp, and then here, we were out there for a month, and boy, working like a bunch of beavers. And so then the word come down, MacArthur's going to come and give us an inspection. And so boy, then they went nuts again. Here we're scattering all over the place, And and our colonel, he's not, you don't see him in here. Oh, there he is, right there. That old colonel right there, Colonel Chambers.
Second from the right, way in the back. Okay.
So anyway, he's back, and he's going crazy because MacArthur's going to come and inspect us. And we would be one of the first outfits that they'd pass after leaving division headquarters. So he knew we'd get him. So he wanted to make it a show place as well. He was working. So he was back at the mess tent back there, making sure that everything is just spit and polish, going on. And he was a real nut for that, because from his 3C days, I guess. But anyway, he was really going. And all of a sudden, somebody come up in the front, which would have been from the mess tent back up to where the squadron headquarters would be probably close to 100 yards. And somebody yelled, "Here comes General MacArthur!" And he come running hard as he could come. Well, by the time MacArthur, you could always tell when he was coming, because he had the only civilian automobile. And all they asked for military jeeps and stuff like that. But he had a Pierce Arrow, civilian 4-door Pierce Arrow. How he got it, I don't know, but he had it. And anyway, here they come in, of course, there's about 6 motorcycles ahead of him, you know, MPs, you know, boy, and the flags are flying. Really putting on a show. And here he comes driving up, and of course he did everything on the double, MacArthur. And so he pulled up and he slammed on the brakes and he jumps down, you know, here he comes and comes down here. And I think this had to be shortly after that happened. It looks like it anyway. But anyway, old Colonel Chambers, he come running hard as he can run, and he caught his foot on a root, on one of these eucalyptus roots. These roots were always on top of the ground, sticking up. He caught his foot and went right straight on his nose. He's laying there on the ground, dazed. Everybody's standing at attention. And MacArthur practically stepped on the guy. And he didn't even say, "Are you all right?" or anything. He just looked around, okay, boom, in his car, and away he goes.
So how long was he there for his inspection?
Oh, he couldn't have been there over 2 minutes, 2 or 3 minutes. That's the way he did everything. Here you see this big Paracero coming in to slam on the brakes, jump up, and boom, boy, everybody up for attention. And he was a real showman. And this was one of our sergeants there.
And who's he talking to there?
That's MacArthur.
Oh, that's MacArthur.
Granbury was this guy's name, I think it was. But it was those kind of crazy things you remember. When we left Australia, we were aboard ship. Now this would be the fall of around Christmas time. We were aboard ship. Christmas and New Year's.
And this is 1943 now, would it be?
Yeah, 43.
Okay.
We left Australia, and we were headed for New Guinea. We landed in what's called Oral Bay. And that reason that we landed there, well, you see, the Australians and then the 32nd Division was the Wisconsin National Guard, and they got over there. These poor guys really got thrown into New Guinea, this Wisconsin National Guard, and they got slaughtered.
Really?
Oh, it was the terrific losses they took.
And that's down here by
In here, and it's see
Boona,
the
is it?
Owen Stanley Mountains is right there, and you see the Japanese were here. The Japanese had that.
They had New Britain.
New Britain and the Bismarck Sea, and there's Rabaul
Yeah.
right there.
So they had Rabaul.
Rabaul was a big naval base for the Japanese, and
That has a really good harbor or something.
yeah,
Is
it
that
was
right?
a real deep harbor and everything. In fact, I think after the war they referred to it as Iron Bottom Bay because they sank so many Japanese ships there. But anyway, the Australians and the 32nd Division, there was another division that was thrown in there, but they were in there ahead of us, see, and they were fighting for all of this here with the Japanese. And it was the first real, jungle warfare. We were having a lot of trouble, we were sleeping in foxholes and stuff like that, and guys were coming down with malaria for a while. Oh boy, it was rugged. When you're sleeping in a foxhole, you didn't do much sleeping because the darn mosquitoes were moving. Oh wow. It was taking about as many out of, coming down sick as was getting wounded. It was getting rough. So, and you see now these are these LS, what the heck do they call them? LCPs, landing craft personnel. You'd take maybe 50 guys and just run them in there and put them and run them from one island to another and stuff. Well, you see, Rabaul was the big naval base for the Japanese, and it was the spot where they closed them off. And of course, what they wanted in the Admiralties there, they referred to it as a lagoon, was a coral inlet. And this is where the Navy put in a huge base. That was one of the reasons they wanted the place. And of course, then the Japanese had 2 airstrips there that they wanted too, so that's what we went in there and took. But they considered that quite a strategic move. And then we pulled out of there in the summer of 44
Okay.
to go to the Philippines. See, we landed in the Philippines October 20th, 1944. So you see, then we had control of the air, so that was not a problem at that point. We were
Okay.
getting ready to go to the Philippines. Now, when we went to the Philippines, you got into the Philippines, then you see the Japanese had all these big air bases around Manila and Leyte and places like that. So they, there was some pretty darn big air battles there. Leyte is the second largest island
In the Philippines.
in the Philippines, and that's where we landed first. And then we landed there the 20th of October in
1944.
44.
Okay.
And then we went to, and we finished up that campaign by the end of end of December. And then we made the move to Luzon. Luzon had already been invaded by several divisions, but they were all up around Clark Field, about 100 miles north of Manila. And so we landed in the Leyte Gulf, which is on the west side of Luzon, the China Sea side. And then we made the run down to Manila to the Santa Tomas University. And by the end of January in 45, we had landed up there. Was making the drive towards Manila. And we arrived at the Santa Tomas University. It took us about 3 days to go that 100 miles. And when we got, it was about the 3rd of February, I think, so it had been the 4th day we pulled into the Santa Tomas University. There's a letter in there I'd like you to read.
Okay.
What's it say there, what I got
It
written?
says, a first-hand account of an American woman who experienced the fall of Manila and imprisonment in Santo Tomas University campus, a Jesuit college, which became known as Santo Tomas Prison, where she and other prisoners of war were held from shortly after Pearl Harbor until they were liberated by the 1st Cavalry in 1945.
3 years later.
Okay.
And that was the objective of the division, was to liberate the prisoners. They were already fighting the Japanese on Luzon when we landed,
Uh-huh.
but they hadn't taken Manila, and we wound up taking Manila. I think at one time there was almost 4,000 people in there. And they 3,700, I think, is what. When we took over, immediately, we had the truck in. We had a lot of these 10-in-1 rations. We brought those in, and boy, they ate them like they were going out of style. Because they didn't have anything to eat.
Yeah.
All they were getting was some kind of a rice soup. And it was a thin rice soup. There wasn't much rice in it. But that's what the Japanese were feeding them. And of course, the Japanese didn't have much to give them either, so they give them very little. But they were, you could see, you could count every rib on these people. And as I say, there was a lot of them were dying. They had malaria, and they were in a bad way. But so immediately they started feeding them, and they got them pretty well. When we were there a couple of weeks, the end of a couple of weeks, a lot of them were doing a lot better.
So you liberate the prison and you get a little break, or do you
Okay, after we finished up in Santa Tomas, then the intermediate section. That's where the Manila Hotel was, and that's where so this would probably be within the same week.
So here's pictures of the Manila Hotel, all kind of shot up, and
Yeah, okay.
it wasn't in good shape.
Oh, no, it was, yeah.
So they must have left kind of in a hurry.
Oh, yeah, they left a lot of stuff laying around. In fact, I got, later we'll show you, but if you go into that dresser in that bedroom where you're sleeping, in the bottom drawer, there's a pistol there.
Oh, I'll go get it.
Go down and get in the bottom drawer.
Okay.
It's a Japanese. What it was, I was told,
Oh, okay, here's Japanese characters over here.
it was an imitation. Don't point it at me.
Yeah, I'm not.
Might be loaded.
Yeah, right. I'm not pulling
No.
any triggers.
But anyway, it was supposedly, this is supposed to be the imitation, the Japanese imitation of a German Luger.
Oh.
That's what it's supposed to be, the way I was told. But now, whether it's true or not, I'd have to get somebody that's an expert on arms to tell me.
Wow.
And if you look on the bed where you're sleeping, there should be a rifle there.
I'll go check it out.
And maybe a sword, I don't know, look and see. I picked that up in a cemetery. South of Manila, about 50 miles or so. And what happened, see, we were chasing the Japanese out of Manila, and I was running the convoy, hauling troops, leapfrogging them from one place to the next. And the Japanese holed up in this big Filipino cemetery. It was just full of tombstones. And it dug in there, and they were really pitched battle going on. And finally, the Air Force comes in, and they had just gotten these new bombs. They called them daisy cutters. And what they were was a bomb. I think it wasn't a very heavy bomb, maybe a 100-pound bomb or something like that. But they had a long detonator on the end, and the theory was that they dropped them out of I don't think they dropped them out of, no, they didn't drop them, but they dropped them out of B-25s, with small bombers. And they parachuted down, and these long detonators on the end of them exploded the bombs above the ground and just wiped them out. And they were in this cemetery and dug in there, and there was bodies laying all over the place when we went through there. And you see, our division then chased them, chased the remnants of the Japanese army, and they drove them. I forget. I'd have to look at a map, but we had them about within 100 miles south of Manila. It was almost getting back towards Leyte, and had them driven out on a peninsula, and there was about 10,000 of them out there. And that's what they figured was out there, and they'd every night they'd try to break out, and they'd have a skirmish every night, and a lot of shooting going on. But and that's where we was when the war ended, when they dropped the A-bombs. And so the minute they dropped the A-bombs, then our division was, MacArthur wanted us in Tokyo, wanted us to be first in Tokyo. We're kind of a pet of his anyway. And, well, he was in the cavalry at one time,
okay.
so he had a soft place in his heart for him. Well, Tokyo was burned out.
Yeah.
It was a disaster. You see, Tokyo at that time, there was a lot of not grass huts, but thatch huts and things like that, made out of bamboo and stuff like that. There was very few concrete buildings. But what happened, the Air Force went through with these, the big bombers.
So then after you're in Tokyo, how long is it before you get discharged or what?
Well, you see, we had a point system. And you got so many points on it. For every beachhead you'd get 5 points, as I remember. And you needed, and they come in with this thing this was even before they dropped the A-bomb. They started coming in with this point system that you could go home. You could rotate you home, because we were over there 3 years plus, and a bunch of us were over there that long, and so everybody was getting pretty antsy about that thing. So they come out with this point system, and it said if you had 80 points, you were eligible to rotate back to the States. And they wanted to send us, up to Japan. Well, what the heck? Here I was sitting there with better than 100 points. you'd get 5 for a beachhead, and I think I had 3 or 4 beachheads, and then for so many for each month. And been over 3 years, so I had a little over 100 points, as I remember. And you needed 85 to be rotated. So I immediately go, well, I want to go home. And they come out and they said, you can't go home because we have nobody to replace you. I was a troop commander at that time. And they have nobody to replace you, so you'll have to go with the troop up to Japan. Oh, God. But anyway, so I had to go to Japan, and then I was only in Japan. I wasn't in there over a week. They released me and sent me back, put me on a ship and sent me home.